Hi, welcome back to another episode of Coldstream Rod Shop. I'm Derek Fraser. In this week's video, we're going to keep on working on the bed for the 35 pickup. It might be a 36, but 35 and 36 beds are pretty much the same. I'm going to call it a 35 until I get corrected. But essentially, this box, we need to build a box for it because the cab has been stretched 6 inches. So we have an original subframe that I started working on last week. We have one cross member straightened out. The second one is over there on the bench that we straightened out. We'll put that in place. I do have to clean up the side some, and I have to start working on the front piece and straighten it out. So that's where we were with that piece. And then, like I mentioned last week, there's a back section here that the owner took to Jeff Yorke Restoration. He's going to make the other piece that goes across the back because his brake is actually larger than ours. Ours is 48 inches and I think they need 52. So Jeff is going to do that for the owner of this. And then, I don't know if I mentioned it already, but we have to actually shorten up this bed by 6 inches. So going to work on that this week. When we have time, we'll probably work on Ellie's coupe, and then we're going to do something else with the Camera Lady's Roadster. Like I said, every week we're going to do something to it to push it closer and closer to the finished assembly. So anyways, follow along, see what we're doing at Cold 3 Rod Shop. Well, today we've been carrying on working on the sub rail for the 35 pickup bed. Took the sides off, straightened out some of the flanges, drilled out some of the rivets, taken some of the threads out. I didn't make any repairs to it yet, so there's a little half moon cut there I have to put a piece of metal into. I also have to shorten these sections by 6 inches, but we've got one cross piece, two cross pieces, two sides, and then here's the piece that will go by the pickup cab. So there's a couple flanges I had to straighten out on this and take the threads out. There's a pile of some of the threaded screws or bolts that I took out. I had to take them out with heat in one of the bolts. So got that all cleaned off. So what's going to happen now is these pieces are going to go out and get sandblasted. Once they're sandblasted, they'll come back in. I'll make the repairs to them and shorten them up. But what I'm going to do now, while these are out, I'm going to start taking patterns off of the sides of the bed and start transferring them over to a piece of flat 18 gauge sheet metal. And hopefully this weekend I'll start bead rolling some of the features in the side. The intention is to do the flat section completely flat, take it up to Jeff Yorke's. He's got a 8-foot long brake, which we will bend this edge. The square edge here is a piece of 3/4 inch square tubing, which will get welded on later. And then the stake posts here, we actually have reproduction stake posts that came with the owner right here. I don't know, it looks like they've been sitting around for a while. They're galvanized. What I may do is I may actually send those out and get those sandblasted because there's a little bit of rust on them. If they get cleaned up nice, they're certainly going to go and weld on nice. So moving along with the 35 truck bed. So this morning the sub rail parts went out to get sandblasted. Now the next step, I think what we want to work on, I want to work on making the truck bed sides. It's been quite a few years since I made them, but we made them from scratch for the 32 pickup. So we're going to do the same thing we did back then. We're just going to do the same thing now. We're going to make those out of that sheet of 18 gauge sheet metal, and we're going to use a bead roller to form all those lines. What we got to start out with first is basically measure up the truck bed sides. See how big they are and allow for bends and whatnot. What the original length of those sides was 70 5/8. We need to make them exactly 6 inches shorter. So we're going to make our sides 64 5/8. I've taken it's bent over at the bottom here, straight up along the side, and then bent again along the top. So there's just basically two bends on it. The ones along the bottom we're most likely going to have to form by hand or with a little wooden buck or something to get that shape. Not a big deal. The big long one here, after we finished forming the beads, we're going to go up to a friend's place. He's got an 8-foot break. Our 4-foot break over there is not long enough because 64-inch piece will not fit in a 48-inch break. So first off, the overall dimensions, by adding everything up, I need 23 5/8 by 64 5/8. So we're going to lay them out here on the sheet, or a brand new sheet of 18 gauge sheet metal. We're going to cut those blanks out. Once I had the blanks cut out, then I'm going to start laying out where all those bead lines are. So that's step one. So next up in making the box sides is, like I said, cut out the blanks, the flat sheets that we're going to need to make each side from the drawings that I just showed you. Then what I did, I made the kind of the outside dimensions of where the pattern, like where this pattern is going to go. So essentially we've got a line 3/4 of an inch up from the bottom that gets folded over. There's 2 3/4 inch between the angled out portion on the top and where the beads are. So what I've done, I've kind of laid these out. You can see the fine pencil marks. So this is where we're going to bend the box sides along the black line, but the pencil lines here are the boundaries for where the bead rolling is going to go. We know how far we have to come in from each end. The blank is shortened 6 inches shorter than the other, so we basically have to put our patterns within this squared section that I've lined out. Now I've done it a couple different ways. In the past, I've actually measured it off the box, drawn it out with a compass and lines and everything else. But what we're going to start with, I'm going to take paper patterns off of the originals here. The bead that goes around the edge out here is actually a different width than what it is that goes around the wheel well. And what I did initially is I made this pattern, which is the forward section closest to the cab. I made it full length, and then I moved it over 6 inches and then recut the wheel well. So what we have right now, we've got the outside pattern, the outside lines along here for where the beads are going to go. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to take these, I'm going to transfer it to the first blank. I'm then going to get the second blank. I'm going to do the same thing on the second blank, so I have the outside lines. And then what we're going to do is we're going to come back in, and I'm going to cut the inside sections out of this so that I then can draw the inside lines. Now I could probably do it all in one step if I find the pattern is going to be less floppy if I just do it this way. That way I'm going to have both of these patterns, and they both have to be a mirror image of each other. So this pattern here, laying at this side for this side of the box, we're going to have to flip it over when we do the opposite side. So otherwise we'll have two sides the same, and they're actually not. So anyways, we're going to carry on with this. I'm going to continue laying out the patterns. We're not quite ready yet to lay any beads down, but we're inching our way towards it. So there are the two blanks all drawn out with the lines for where we're going to bead roll. In some cases, I've marked it where we actually have to stop because this bottom edge is going to be rolled over. So we'll continue the bead up to the edge, stop it, and then later on, this edge will be folded over. Whereas the center pieces here, we've made some radiuses. Some of them I just made them by using a piece of 1/2-inch pipe. Now, one thing is that we are limited to the turning radius on the bead roller. What I found in the past when I did this, we're gonna run the bead up to this point, up to that point, and this radius here, we're gonna have to punch it in. We can't turn it that sharply on the bead roller. So ahead of time, I know I can't turn that. Another limitation that I had to double check on, because we got into trouble with that before, was that the bead rollers get an 18-inch throat. So I just fortunately have an 18-inch ruler. So basically looking for, when we're bead rolling stuff, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to put the dies one way and then the other, because the type of dies that I use over there, I've got one with a sharp edge. The sharp edge is going to follow this line on top, and then there's a round edge side of it. It's going to come up underneath. So we're going to have essentially what I want is I want this edge sharp and then this edge soft. So over on the bead roller, right now I have the dies on there, but I haven't flipped them around just yet. So I have one soft edge, this is actually going to have to go on the bottom, and there's my sharp edge. So this line here is the one that I'm going to be following along those lines when we get going. So what I still have to do is bring the bead roller stand out. I have to put this other table onto it, get some 2x4s to make the table bigger, and then make sure I have enough room to be able to spin the panel around. Because in some cases we're going to bead roll from one side, and then we're going to have to flip the dies around in order to bead roll from the other side. So we're going to be bead rolling so far, catching up on the bead, and then we'll actually flipping the dies around. And then, anyways, I'm going to do my best to show you exactly what I mean, to be able to make the best of a small 18-inch bead roller and pull this off. Did it before. I have a sample piece down there on the back wall from when we did it the last time, so that's kind of proof that I did it before. And also we did it on a 32 Ford. This time we're going to do it on a 35 Ford. So once I get the bead roller all set up, I'll set the camera up for time lapse, and I'll show you some bead rolling of the sides for a 35 Ford pickup bed. So there's the first side bead rolled out, quite a bit of distortion. As you saw, I did not pre-stretch it. I didn't pre-stretch the first ones that I did, kind of really difficult to do. But the other thing too is that all of this stuff is going to be constrained. As soon as we fold this edge up, we fold this edge down, and then the stake pockets get welded to the side here. So there's a whole bunch of things that will actually straighten everything back out again. I'm not saying that to make up for not pre-stretching, but that's what's going to happen with this case. And even the inner fender well, if you notice, even originals, the inner fender well has got a little bit of a wobble to them. It's completely covered by the fender as well. But again, like once this edge is folded over and this edge is tipped up, it's going to straighten that panel completely out. Along the top edge here, there'll be a piece of 3/4 inch square tubing that'll be welded along this edge, kind of like what we have right here. So once everything is kind of bent, we are going to get flat again. Now what I still have to do is actually take a punch, a round punch, and I have to make this round. So I've got like a little punch and then a dolly underneath where I'll work around that. I'll show you that later on. But next up, I've got to do the other panel. And as you probably could see from the time lapse, I'm at the absolute limits of my homemade little Franken-roller there. Really should probably have something much larger with a larger table and a larger work area. But the bed sides are kind of at the limit of what we would make here. We don't make them often, may never make another set again. Most of the time we're just making small panels like this to fix up bodies. But I guess if we get into doing more of this, then we're going to upgrade probably to a larger bead roller, because we're actually at the max of what we can do with what we have. Going to do this a little bit differently than what I normally do. Don't have the camera lady here, but I'm going to make this little radius here. I wasn't able to bead roll it and make the tight corner. I've already done my trial piece over here. So instead of doing this on time lapse, I'm going to do it on regular. So I'm not sure how this is going to turn out. So we're going to give it a go here. So what I did, I created a small little metal pattern, which I'm going to clamp on the other side. I'll show you in a second here. So this is the little metal pattern that we're going to form the bead around. Going to flip it over. We've already got one done. I'm going to place it where I want it, right about there. We're going to put the vice grips around. Make lots of noise, of course. Hopefully I got the camera set up in the right place. I have to move the camera around. So when I flip it, you might not be able to see it. But anyways, we're gonna. I'm going to set the metal anvil right on top of the wood. So we will adjust the camera right there. I have this piece of, I don't know, 1/4 inch by 1.5 inches. I kind of use as anything and everything. So what we're going to do is just going to work it around the metal. It made lots of noise. It's pretty much where we want to have it, and I'll give you a close-up shot of it. So right there, see, I've formed it around this edge. That's what it looks like after I hit it with this small piece of mild steel to shape it. That's what it looks like when we stop the 2 beads onto it. So right now what I've got to do is I've got to repeat that on both of these pieces. Now, given the fact that I've bead rolled this and I don't have a power hammer and nice dies and that, I am going to have to go around with the dolly, square a couple things up. Sometimes when you go around the corners, things aren't as sharp, so we'll take the hammer and the dolly, we'll clean some of that stuff up. But for all intents and purposes, we have the 2 sides now all bead rolled up. I'll finish those 2 radiuses. The next step after doing a little bit of touch-up work, I'm gonna go up to a friend's place. He's got a 48 inch, or not a 48, he's got an 8-foot brake. I have a 48-inch brake. He's got an 8-foot brake, and then we'll do the flange on this end, and we'll do the 45-degree flange on this, and that'll basically tighten those two panels right up. So making progress here on the 35 pickup bed. So at the moment, the next step, as I just said, is to actually take these side pieces and put them on a brake, bend the edges, and then we'll work on some more features. But due to the snowstorm we just had, and basically all of Toronto, Montreal, the East Coast here, and up and down the eastern seaboard of the U.S. got hit with the snowstorm pretty bad. We're not really going anywhere for the next day or so, and I have to go somewhere else to do that. Additionally, the back piece that we have here, I would make that, but the metal that we cut off of this sheet of 18 gauge is only 48 inches, and I need 52 inches to make this one. So not going to work on that just yet. So it's going to be probably next episode or later in this one that we can get to either one of those two things. So in the meantime, we got some work to do on the Camber Ladies Roadster. I picked out the next project to work on that, and I'll show you in a minute. So the next project I want to work on a Camber Ladies Roadster is actually the battery box. When we did Brenda's Roadster, we built a battery box and we stuck it behind the passenger seat, behind the reinforcing structure we put in there. And we're going to do the same thing for this one. On a previous episode, I had ran the main battery cable right here. It's run along the inside of the frame. And all I have to do now, it's actually hanging underneath the floor here. I have to drill a hole in the floor so that the battery cable can come up through the floor, and we'll put a grommet around that. That's the plan. But right now what we're going to do is construct a square battery box that'll fit in this area here, right behind the structure. Potentially I could put it there in between the X, but what I like to do is put a little bit more weight on the passenger side so that when the driver's driving it, you got a little bit of an offset in the weight. Also, I weigh quite a bit more than the Camber Lady, so if I'm driving her car and she's in the other seat, we got the battery on the other side of the car. Going to make it out of 1/8 inch steel plate. Probably for a battery size 65, which is like a 650 to 700 cranking amp battery. It's a common size here that it's typically used on like an F-150. It's a common size. I used it on the 32 pickup, and I think I also have it in the Model A. So the other advantage to that is if I'm down to one battery and I have to steal one from one of the other cars, it's the same battery fitting in the same box. So anyways, we're going to go back over to the other garage and we're going to start making the battery box. Just so that you can see, we got lots of snow. I've already plowed it once, going to have to plow it again. So, but that's winter. That's the way it is. So here's the beginnings of the battery box. The battery itself is around 12 by 7.5 by 7.5. Going to make the box 12.5 inches wide. 8 inches this way and 8 inches that way. That allows the battery to sit in there. What we will do is the battery will have, I'll put a piece of angle iron across the front with 2 threaded rods going in, which will actually push the battery in against the back here. That's going to be the battery hold down. So instead of making individual pieces, I cut one 12.5 inch wide piece, and then what I did was I just cut it with the mini grinder wheel, the cutoff wheel. So I just sliced it along there, sliced along here, and then I just physically bent it on the bench. That saves cutting individual pieces and having to hold them in place, because basically you're able to bend the box. Now what I'll do is I'll go back over this and I'll weld this all the way around and grind it smooth. Right now what I've got to do is make the sides. So I've got a piece of 1/8 plate here. I'm going to mark off pieces. I'm going to cut the pieces off for the side. We'll weld those on too. So we're halfway to making the battery box. So there's the beginnings of the Camera Lady's battery box. I may cut out the pieces for the sides, the triangular shaped pieces. Right now, so far, I've welded everything in. It's still hot to the touch right now, but what I'll do is I'll dress all of those welds and make it nice and square. Then what I've got to do is trial fit it over in the Camera Lady's Roadster and figure out where I'm going to attach the brackets, because ultimately this is going to attach to the structure that's behind the seat and then sit on the floor. Additionally, we will make a battery hold down bracket. More than likely, I will make it out of, hopefully I've got a piece of it here. What I've done in the past is I've just made it out of angle iron, with the angle iron sitting on the battery like this, and then threaded rods going down to the side so that this holds the battery into the box. We've got to make sure that I've got access either to, well, the intention would be to have the cables on this side coming out and then the battery being pushed into the box in this direction. So we're going to carry on with that and hopefully we'll get that finished up. So today I'm up at Jeff Yorke's Restoration. Somebody asked if they could see the cab for the 35 stretched box. So I'm going to show you it in progress right now. So Jeff is behind me right now. I'm not sure if he wants to be on the camera or not, but this is the stretched cab. You can see the sections that he's added in here, and then across the top.
We used one whole roof piece, cut it 6 inches longer. So we've only got one seam down the middle.
There we go. Okay.
Saved a bunch of welding. Just chopped 1.5 inches.
Oh, I did not know that.
It.
Okay, I didn't know that it was chopped. Cool. Okay,
So we wanted to chop it a little, but not enough to defeat the big guy thing. Trying to fit a big guy in it. So.
Yeah, the customer is a little. He's bigger than I am, and that's what I'm going to say. So right now you can see kind of the main section here where the doors were stretched. I'm going to come around.
I took a piece out of another door down to here, and then the skins are completely hand fabbed. One piece skins.
And you could see across the top how we kept the lines like really nice and straight. So it looks like it was made that way. So
On this part was fabbing the drip rail piece. We didn't have any donor stuff for drip rail.
Oh, that was fun.
So we had to hand fab that.
Right on. So, and then
anyway, it's 6 inches longer than it used to be and 1.5 inches lower than it used to be.
Which means I'm making the box 6 inches shorter than it used to be. So over here, here's one of the doors. Terry's working on it right now. But there's the top. I don't know if we can see up underneath. Oh, yeah, you can see where it was done. So anyway, super nice job. Folks asked if I could show the cab. So there it is. Today we're up here bending the box sides on Jeff's brakes. And we'll get back in the shop here and do some more work on that. Anyway, thanks. Much appreciated, Jeff. Take care. So today we get a few things back. The parts we sent out for sandblasting went out. We were sandblasted and epoxy primed. I still have to shorten some of those and trim them up, but they all look good and clean now. The back section, Jeff made that piece for us at Jeff Yorke's Restoration. Mainly because the brake is much larger. We've got the stake bed pockets here. They're back. They were sandblasted and epoxy primed too. And then here are the bed sides that Jeff bent up for us. So the one edge here bent back at a 90, and then this edge here at the top bent around 30 degrees. We'll have to tweak that a little bit. Still have a little bit of distortion in the panel, but as you can see there, compared to what you saw previously on the video, everything's straightened up a lot like I said that it would. The stake bed pockets will go on here, which will make this flat, but we may actually try shrinking along the edge here a little bit just to tighten it up some. We'll see how that goes. But anyways, we can now carry on with more work on the truck bed. So there's the battery box. I've got all the welds dressed off. Made the top bracket, which I'm going to use to hold the battery in place somewhat like this. Going to be using some threaded rods from the side. And then on the back, what I did, I welded a bracket on, because on the back of the seat, don't know if you remember this, behind the seat in a 32 Roadster, we've got like an X member going across there that supports the back of the body so it doesn't wobble. So what'll happen is the battery box will sit on the floor, and then also will be bolted up against the X member. I'm not going to go any further with this because I actually want to get a battery and put the clamp in place. And then I'm going to weld some of these threaded rods on the side. So that's what we're going to use for tensioning the battery hold down bracket into the battery box. So anyways, that's as far as I'm going to go with the battery box this week. It's pretty much made except for the final adjustments for the hold down bracket, and then we'll put a coat of black paint onto it. Well, that's it for another episode of Coldstream Rod Shop. This week's video was primarily focused on making the truck bed sides, which we pulled off. We got the edges bent. Went for a visit up to Jeff Yorke Restoration. You got to see the stretched 35 Ford cab that ultimately this bed will go on. We got the battery box made for the Camber Ladies Roadster. Didn't get it in, but still get it made. So one more thing off the list of things to do. But that's it for this week. Hopefully you enjoyed what we did. Please like, share, tag, and subscribe. Come on back next week and see what we're up to. Everybody take care and have a great week.